Hello. So today we are talking about something very specific. Actually, no, it's more of an idea, but I'm sinking my teeth into something very specific, that being the show Arrow. We're just using it as a linchpin for a larger argument of adapting comic books into other forms of media, which obviously I am okay with. Where the question lies and the problem with for some people is taking liberties when you adapt those comic books, because it's one thing to take the Watchmen approach and just basically adapt the comic panel for panel, tonally, visually, everything, just from the comic to the screen. It's one thing to do it that way. It's another thing to take the Arrow approach, where basically nothing from the source material is the same, aside from the character sharing a similar, not even the same name for a while. And it might sound like I'm not okay with that, but I actually am. I honestly feel like the source material should be respected, but it is not, and it should never be the end-all be-all to adapting anything, whether it be a book, a comic book, a song, just literally anything. If your point is to remake or reimagine something, a story as it would be in a different medium, then yes, maybe you shouldn't take that many liberties. I imagine that's what Watchmen was going for. But with something like Arrow, they are clearly trying something different. They've been trying something different. You could say that Arrow is a more accurate adaptation of Batman, but even then, the character's not called Bruce Wayne. He's not the Batman. He's still Arrow, Green Arrow, the Hood, whatever you want to call him. So, you know, it's just, Arrow is a good example because one objective fact about Arrow is that it takes liberties from its source material. It borrows things from the comics, twists them around, puts it through its little Arrowverse machine, and then spits them out on the other end, usually being a bit more dark and brooding than they were in the comics. For better or for worse. Most of the time, I feel like the decisions that they take to change things from the source material, most of the time aren't bad. Those decisions inherently, I don't think, are bad. The writing and just the plot points and the direction and some of the characters in the show can sometimes be bad, but I think that's the folly of the show, not the actual liberties from the source material. But those things still can be bad. I mean, look at some of the old, like the Batman and Robin movies and stuff, where everything's just silly and doesn't make any sense and doesn't even really feel like Batman. Arrow, I think, is just a good example of taking liberties in any sense, because that is sort of its MO. It takes liberties from the source material, for better or for worse. There are seasons where it's just terrible, but it's no fault of the source material being changed. You could argue that that is the fault, but I would say no, it's just bad writing in general. So don't be scared of source material changing, is what I'm trying to say here. I don't think your first thought when it comes to a comic book adaptation or a book adaptation or anything should be, you know, oh no, they better get it right, they better stay true to the source material, because who cares? Honestly, especially in comic books with superheroes, when there are so many stories, most of these adaptations are just taking the core ideas of the character and adapting them to a different type of medium and telling their own stories with that character, as opposed to, you know, the Watchmen approach of just reimagining a story in a different medium. And I think that's why a lot of book adaptions get flack, because they are trying to, it's harder to make the dividing line, because with, like, when you're making a Harry Potter movie, aside from Fantastic Beasts, you're not just making a movie with the Harry Potter characters. You are adapting a book with a specific plot and theme and, you know, devices in that movie. So I understand where people are coming from when they say, oh, it's not true to the source material. It doesn't make it inherently bad, but it makes it a little more confusing to criticize. So those are my thoughts on adapting mostly comic book stuff to other mediums, but I touched on other things as well. I do think Arrow is a very good example of this because it is always taking liberties from the source material, but at the same time, it continues to either be a good or bad show despite what it's doing with the source material. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. We are very close to the end of this month. I guess I could announce what the finale is going to be. I'm not just going to go out with a fizzle. I'm going to try and go out with a bang. Nothing huge or anything. It's an episode of the show with issues. I am going to try my dang hardest to get my video on Earth 65 finally made. It has been in development hell for almost over a year now, but I'm going to try and get it out for the end of this big month. So yeah, we've got 2 more of these videos, and then it'll all end with my video on Earth 65. Be sure to watch this video next to me, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.